Little boy and fat man. Well, these two words, I think, is a nightmare for everybody in the entire world. On the 6th of August 1945, American B-29 bomber dropped 2 bombs on Japan. The first was at Hiroshima, and which killed instantly around 80,000 people. And 3 days later, another B-29 dropped another bomb at Nagasaki. The meaning of the words Hiroshima is broad island and Nagasaki is long cape. It instantly killed around 120,000 people around Japan. People and the entire world thought that everything has ended for Japan, especially in the area of education. 78 schools were damaged, 39 national schools, 30 middle schools, 9 high schools, including 4 universities. On the 21st of August 1945, the Japan government resumed their classes. September 15, Hiroshima reopened. 2 weeks later, Hiroshima bombing took place. The classes and the education system resumed. Teachers bought their own ink, stones, ink sticks, and brushes. Coal boxes were put up on straw mats and used as desks. Collected pieces of wooden bars painted with black ink and pounded with burned nails were used to make blackboards. As a whole, the education system resumed after what we call one of the greatest debacle in the history of mankind. The current scenario of Japan leads to the world in terms of numeracy and literacy fields. Teaching is what you learn. Once you teach anything, what you learn is what the Japanese schools believe. Children around the world learn around 26 to 33 letters. But because of the high quality of teaching, Japan, when the students leave the primary schools at the age of 15, they learn around 1,130 kanji characters. Students also learn shodo and haiku, which is a type of calligraphy. A high percentage of Japanese students attend school workshops where they can learn more than what they learn in the classes. The current scenario of Japanese schools stands to be one of the world's best in terms of the quality of teaching. To talk more about this, we have today with us Christopher Rodrigues, currently working with Shenzhen English School in Japan for more than 2 years. He has done his MSc in Hospitality Management and most importantly, completed a course of 120 hours of TOEFL from Asian College of Teachers, and he is also a corporate trainer. We from Asian College of Teachers heartily welcome Christopher Rodrigues, who is joining us directly from Japan. Welcome, Christopher.
Thank you so much, Shanak. Thank you very much.
Okay, right. So I was just, it is indeed a great pleasure to have you directly joining in this Facebook Live show. I was reading and I was astounded by the quality of teaching that people have currently in Japan. So Christopher, because that was one of the greatest problem I think that entire history faced, and how Japan recovered after the bombing. The current teaching scenario stands to be world's best. So Christopher, my first question to you would be, those who are listening, is that if you can just tell us about the current ESL teaching scenario in Japan.
At this point of time, a lot of people are actually looking at studying English. Most of the schools over here, in fact, a lot of the elementary schools, they are kind of making English a mandatory language. So we do have a lot of people, because the Japanese now, they're actually looking at moving abroad. They kind of want to go ahead and start working in different countries. So there is definitely a lot of scope, for them to learn English, and they are definitely looking out for a lot of people, kind of, to go ahead and teach them. The Tokyo Olympics. So when I came here in the year 2018, and at that point of time, the Tokyo Olympics was still on schedule for 2020. And we
Okay.
had a lot of, a lot of customers, in fact, coming to the school that I was teaching in. We still do have a lot of, students who are still there. The COVID situation did kind of have a little bit of an impact, but not all that much. But once again, English is definitely picking up over here in this country.
Right. Right. So, Chris, like, I mean to say, like me, for example, if I take myself as an instance, those who are
Hmm.
watching and those who are the aspirants of English teachers, first,
Hmm.
I think that what would be the most common question which all the viewers would be waiting, that if you can explain in a very step-by-step manner, what are the rules and regulations for English teaching? Say, I am a graduate, I have got a
Okay.
neutral accent, and I have got a TEFL
Hmm.
TESOL certificate. These are the basics which we have, which I have. What are the rules
Hmm.
and regulations for applying for a job as an ESL teacher in Japan?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just run you through the whole process that I had been through. My entire journey from right when I had started off with TEFL and until the last minute when I actually, boarded that aircraft and came here to Japan.
Right.
So the first thing was, once you enter TEFL and once you enter Asian College of Teachers, what you're going to get is you're going to actually get the foundation. So, for example, if you look at if you want to kind of measure a rectangle, you want to know what's the area of a rectangle. It's half, you basically length into breadth. So, irrespective of what the length is or what the breadth is of various rectangles, the formula remains the same. So
Absolutely. Great example.
that
Thank you.
is that is what. So basically, the formula is what I learned at ACT. And then when you come into a different environment, you just pick up from there, you learn what they are teaching you, but your foundation is what ACT gives you. Another small little example that I can give you is at ACT we started off, for all those who are listening right now who have logged in, you would have done a lot of warm-ups. That's the same thing that even I do in all my classes, irrespective of whether they are small children or whether they are kind of adults. That's the same thing that I do in all my classes. It's just that the warmers that we did back in ACT and the warmers that I do here are a little different. But at the end of the day, we are doing warmers. So that's where I'm, comparing the formula. What ACT teaches you is what you actually need to do the job. So the first thing is you get your certificate. The next thing is you start applying online. You can go on, different websites that are there. Just go ahead and start applying, to whichever institute that you want. And
Okay.
the thing that I did was the day I received my certificate, I remember going back home and the whole night I was actually sitting and just applying to different schools. And there's two things that you need over here. One, you need to be persistent. Persistent as in you need to keep applying and applying and applying. The second thing is you need patience because once you apply, you might, get responses from other schools. But again, uh, these responses might be positive, might be negative. You, you are going to have those setbacks coming in, but you got to be persistent over there. That is when you don't take that failure like, oh, this is the end of it. Schools are saying no to me, or am I not good enough, or what exactly it is. No, you continue applying to n number of schools. Like when I started applying, I think I may have applied to close to about almost 400 schools
Hmm.
till I finally came to where I am right now with, after I got my offer letter and everything with Shane. So yeah, it is going to take a lot of persistence and a lot of patience. Patience will be, after you go ahead and you have that first interview of yours with a particular school, and then, wherever you are going, all the paperwork is going to take a lot of time. So it could take you anywhere between, by the time you have your first interview, which would probably be a Skype interview, it could take anywhere between 8 months to almost a year sometimes, or depending on how fast the school wants you and how fast the paperwork gets.
Right.
So yeah, that was basically my journey. From the time I applied till the time I actually came to Japan, it was about a good 6 months.
Right. Okay. My next question is that which I generally face from the placement, because I deal with the placement part. For
Mhm.
Japan, two, three things I would like to ask. First of all, is there any age criteria beyond which a person cannot apply?
At this point of time, not that I know of, but I would say the cap would be at about 60, because there are quite a number of teachers who are pretty elderly over here who are teaching with us, and most of the time, whichever school you're kind of applying to, if they do have an age cap, they would have mentioned it in their their advertisements or whatever they have. But
Right.
otherwise, if they have not really mentioned an age cap, there's no really age cap as such.
Okay. So, what I'm also trying to understand and give the audience an idea, applying
Hmm.
for a school in Japan, say with a basic eligibility of a graduation, with a good communication, some amount of experience, and anything 120 hours or more TEFL TESOL certificate. Is that okay? I mean to say, is that fine, or do you need something more? Maybe the language, maybe a certificate, maybe CELTA or IELTS. What else would be required apart from the, I would say, the basic eligibilities that we are discussing? What extra edge would you suggest to the students in order to get clear for a course for a job in Japan?
So what I would say is it depends on what exactly you're looking at, what kind of an institute you're looking at. If you are looking at something like an elementary school, if you want to teach in an elementary school, or if you want to teach in a university, definitely having a TESOL or TEFL certificate, along with that also having a CELTA or a Delta will definitely be an added advantage.
Right.
But otherwise, as long as you have your TEFL certificate, that's basically your walking ticket. As long as you
Okay.
can communicate well, as long as you, because it was one of the main things that they actually look at is how good you are at holding a conversation with someone. Because there could be times
Conversation.
when,
Right.
yeah, there could be times when you like for me, there are times
Okay.
when I have students who come in and they don't really want to do the textbook. They just want to have a conversation, and it could
Right.
be random topics that they actually choose, or
Right.
it could just be a random topic that you start talking about. So it's all
Right.
about how well you can hold up that conversation.
Okay. Do you think that you already have a master's in, I think, hospitality management, if I'm not wrong?
That's
Any student or any colleagues of yours may you have
Mhm,
met or you have come across, especially from India, who do not have a
mhm.
master's degree? Does it come as a problem? Does it come as a criteria for selection?
No, it doesn't really come in as a problem. As long as you are a graduate, once again, that's the least that they would be looking out for. You have to be at
Okay.
least a graduate.
Okay.
So once
Okay.
again, if you have a master's degree or a doctorate or something, that those all go as added advantages.
Okay, okay. So teaching in a school with whatever you have told, if I take
Mhm,
it forward to teaching in a university, I think that when
mhm.
we move to any university in Japan, obviously a master's or higher qualifications is a must.
Definitely, yeah. In those kind of fields, yes, they would definitely look at a much more higher educated person. But once again, it also depends on what exactly you are going to be teaching there.
Okay. So what
Whether
you
you are
are
actually.
teaching in Shane
Mhm.
English school, you are
So
teaching
basically,
English.
that's right, because Shane English School is not like an elementary school, but over here we are purely an English speaking school. So we have students, right from small 2-year-olds. Like my oldest student would be about 80 plus, almost 85.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a varied age group that I'm teaching over here.
Okay, okay. Do you also have subject teachers coming from different parts of the world? I'm saying not only India, maybe from Spain,
Mhm.
Japan, French. I mean to say specific subject teachers, maybe mathematics, maybe geography, maybe part. Do you have those teachers?
Yeah, we do have those type of teachers also, but like once again, with Shane, we are purely an English speaking school, so we don't really have different subjects over here.
Okay,
But yes,
okay,
we do have people from different walks of life. So I have few of my colleagues who are, lawyers, doctors, engineers.
okay,
So
okay.
we've all come from different walks of life.
Okay, so I'm coming to the next point. As
Mhm.
we have seen and we have understood Japan in the eyes of media or in the eyes of videos and entertainment, it is it requires a kind of a cultural orientation when we move. I think every country do have, but as because we are
Mhm.
talking to you and we are trying to know more from you. So the
Mhm.
culture and the people, what were your initial days that you got the challenges when you first entered the classroom, opening the door, and slowly you understood we will come to the language part later, but
Mhm.
what would be the cultural orientation, how it happened, did you felt a little bit funny amongst those people, anything?
Um, I think, once again, it would be good if you just come in like a completely blank slate, where
Okay,
as when I say a blank slate is you just kind of got to be open to accepting the culture the way it is. Because back home in India, and also coming from a city like Bombay where it's all crowded, and things were just very different. The way people queue up at a train station, or even when you go to a grocery store or anywhere you go, things are way different from any other country that when you come over here. So the first thing is, if you really want to blend in over here with Japan and the Japanese, uh, what I would say is, when in Rome, do like the Romans. Just look
yes,
at
in the
the
Rome do as
way,
the
just
Romans
look at
do.
the way they are, and just follow what they are doing. And that's one of the best ways to kind of blend in with the culture, because you will learn that people are, by mistake, you people might bump into you, but maybe back, in other countries, or if you're somewhere else, you might get a little annoyed. But over here it's just different. You just smile, or you just say sorry even if it's not your fault, and you just move on. So
Right,
the best way to kind of deal with this the whole culture shock, yes, it's going to be a lot of culture shock when you come here. But one of
yes.
the best ways to deal with it is, when in Rome, be like the Romans, or when in Japan, be like the Japanese.
Right. So the other day, then when you're talking over telephone, you told me that
Mhm.
Japanese people and culture overall, they're very humble. Now,
Ex-
when I talk about taking this humbleness also into the
Mhm.
classroom, how do
Mhm.
you actually, I mean to say, how do you actually make lesson plans, or how do you behave with these young people in terms of taking this humbleness into the class? Can you give certain examples how really things happen in a Japanese classroom?
Okay, so the first thing is, when it comes to being humble, like Japan and Japanese people, they take being humble to a whole new level. For example, you would have someone like my 80-plus-year-old student. He will not sit until unless I tell him, okay, please have a seat.
Oh,
So
oh, really?
that's the kind of,
Okay,
yeah, that's the kind of discipline, and that's the kind of people that they are. So once again, and you kind of, once you're in school, you have to be very careful about your tone, the way you speak. Like sometimes, yes, we get excited, our tone does go up, but our Japanese, they are very soft spoken.
right,
So
right.
then being soft spoken, even when you are in class, and sometimes if you do get sorry, excited about something, you got to be a little careful about that. And especially when it comes to like small little kids, if you got to kind of reprimand them for something, you got to make that switch instantly from like you be firm with them, and the next moment you're once again back like a small
Back.
kid, you're
Right.
playing with them.
Okay. Right.
Because for them, seeing someone, first and foremost, you're a foreigner, so which scares them. Secondly, if a foreigner now gets angry with them, it scares them even more.
Even more. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So these are small things that you kind of need to keep in mind when you're kind of dealing with them, and also with the adults. You have to be you have to know that they are here to learn, and whoever or wherever you go, wherever you're going to teach, whether be it an elementary school, be it a language school, be it a university, you need to understand that no matter what you say, or you know you are the teacher, and they will listen and they will follow what you are doing. So sometimes if you do forget to tell them, okay, please have a seat, and you're busy doing something else, they will continue to stand until you tell them, okay, you can sit.
Right. So if I have heard you correctly, you told that there
Mhm.
are age groups which are 70, 75, 80 plus who are coming
That's
to.
right.
Okay. So just trying to understand, that means that
Mhm.
if I make a distinction between English, teaching English as a second language and as a foreign language, do you consider Japan to be a country where English definitely is a totally foreign language?
uh, it's actually going to be a blend of both.
Okay.
The reason why I say it's a blend of both is because maybe about 5 or 10 years ago, most of the elementary schools have started introducing, basic level English. But
Okay.
then some of the older students, or some of like the elderly ones, they still don't really know English all that much. It would have been what they must have learned when they were in either high school, or maybe they may have learned a little bit when they were in university, or at that point of time. Because
Okay.
generally, um, in a few years ago, they used to actually teach English only when the student entered into maybe high school or junior high.
Okay. Right.
But now the trend is that they're moving more into elementary school, because they know that, okay, if you want to go abroad, or if you want to do anything, and moreover, English is now becoming like a universal language.
Right.
So,
So, Chris, my what I would like to also ask you, that we all know that Japan has got an aging factor, right? So, does it
Mhm,
make it sure that the teachers are much
mhm.
more matured? And you have got a not only your school, but overall, you have got a much more matured age group of teachers rather than very young teachers.
Uh, I wouldn't really say that, because we have had some of the teachers who have been as young as 23, 24.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So, but these are, once again, this is if you want to just come here and teach English as maybe a foreign language or a second language. But if you go
okay.
more into specializations, then yes, they're kind of a bit more elderly.
Okay. We have one question coming up. Let us see
Mm-hmm.
that if we can see that question. My question to you would be that it often comes up from the students,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mm-hmm.
that what level of Japanese language do you really need to know, or is learning Japanese is essential, or how much level of language? Yeah, should I know? Yeah, I got a question from Rasana
Japanese.
Balian.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
she is asking, should I know Japanese beforehand? Are the people accepting
Okay.
of us as outsiders?
Uh, so when I came here, okay, when I came here in 2018, uh, the amount of Japanese that I knew was zero.
Yeah. Okay.
I did not know a word of Japanese, for the exception
Okay.
of arigato. That's it.
Okay.
And maybe the second one that I knew was hi, which is yes. Those are the
Okay.
only two words that I actually knew in Japanese. Even right now, at this point of time, I can barely kind of speak a little bit of Japanese to just kind of save myself, but you don't really need it. once again, like for us in school, it's not mandatory. In fact, my school encourages us not to speak in Japanese at all to the students, because the moment the students get a feel that, okay, my teacher can understand a little Japanese, that's when they start speaking to you in Japanese.
In Japanese, absolutely. They feel
Yeah.
comfortable. Right. Right.
Uh, the only place where I have actually felt really, really helpless over here when I have, been, would be at maybe some of the government offices. But once again, some of them, they do know Japanese, some of them, I mean, sorry, if some of them do know a little bit of English. But I was lucky enough that at all the given times that I've been to, the government offices, I've always got someone to speak to me in English. But I've had some of my colleagues who have been there and they've had a difficult time because, they couldn't really understand what was being said.
Right.
So apart from that, you don't really kind of need to know. If you do know a little bit of Japanese, it's definitely an added advantage. But if you do not know Japanese, no problem. I came here with zero, surviving, and
Right.
yeah.
So, in general,
Because
apart from, yeah,
I'm
please
sorry,
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
So, in general, apart from the school and the work that you do, because
Hmm.
when we go to Japan or when the students ask me, it is not that only, okay, Vijay Somar Holik is telling any tips to nail the interview or in creating a cover letter that is appealing. Okay, we will come to that. My question to you was, Chris, was that not only
Hmm.
when you really teach into school and when you're in the school hours, but in general,
Hmm.
when I go out to fetch my maybe my food, or I'm going somewhere in the local bus, or I'm going to fetch certain drinks items or washing my clothes around.
Hmm.
How difficult will it be without knowing the Japanese language to survive in Japan? Or is it okay that the way you are doing a little bit of English and a little bit of Japanese, how difficult, how it would be to survive with the other livelihood?
It's not going to be impossible. There could be times when it might be a little difficult. Like once again, a lot of once you go to a supermarket or if you go to a department store, you have a lot of interns who are there, who are actually university students or high school students who are kind of working
Okay,
part-time job,
right.
and they do know a little bit of English, and some of them in fact are really happy to come across and speak to a foreigner because that's their way of kind of getting to speak the language. So it's not really very difficult. And moreover, when you go into whether it is a convenience store or whether it's a supermarket, you have things that are there on display. If you want a carton of milk, you can just ask someone where you'll find milk. They'll let you know. If there's something that you need, you can see it in front of you. And
Okay,
and right now at this, given the time and age that we are in, you have Google Translator.
right.
That's my
But
saving.
but the display is in English or in Japanese kanji?
No, there's stuff that's written in Japanese. There might be a little bit that might be written in English, like a few
Okay,
things, but
okay,
otherwise it's not really difficult. It's not difficult at all.
okay. So we got another question which we might see
Hmm.
coming up. The she is asking that what would be the typical way of writing a cover letter? Generally, I provide from the placement cover letter samples, etc.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
would you suggest anything which is very typical to Japan? A type of a cover letter or a resume, or most importantly, I would like to ask that a video resume or an introductory video where I constantly
Hmm.
tell my students is very important, because international and during this pandemic period, nobody can call you for a physical interview. So your communication, gesture, body language all becomes very important. So would you suggest any best practices, tips and techniques for a cover letter, or how would you emphasize introductory video to be very important?
Or so the way that I had prepared it, about 3 years ago, was my introductory video and my cover letter were almost similar. But
Okay,
the difference that was there was when I made my introductory video. Initially, I introduced myself, let them know about your name, who you are, what you do. And then the second thing is, because your introductory video is going to be anywhere between 2.5 to at the most maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
And
2 minutes would
so
be
the
your
first,
ideal time.
yes. So the first half is going to be, about just talking about yourself, what you have done, and, or maybe what you're doing right now. And the second half would be about why you chose to be an ESL teacher, or if you're going to a different country, why you want to go to that country, and, how do you think you can help, or how are you going to make a difference by going there or coming there to the particular school and teaching. So
Absolutely.
those are the things that you actually want in there. Another thing to keep in mind would be, now once again, when you're making that cover video, you got to keep in mind that it has to be very brief, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you go ahead and you just rattle things off. No,
Hmm.
you got to be, very, very clear in what you are saying. You need to be audible. So first and foremost, what I would say is sit, write down what you want to put in there, and the next thing is going to be practice, because you got to
Right.
make it sound natural. Because there would be times when you're holding a paper up and you're reading to the paper, you're reading a script,
Hmm.
go over it, go over it, go over it. Like I remember when I made my introductory video, I was in Goa, and I must have taken at least about 30 or 40 takes till I actually got my introductory video the way I wanted it to be.
Absolutely. I would like to take a point, those who are listening. So we are listening to Christopher Rodrigues joining directly from Japan, and he is suggesting that at least it takes 30 to 40 shots in order to get the introductory video done. So point to be noted for the audience is that you need to really work, and you really need to, I would say, you really need to do the exercise and your homework done to make the video. Right.
And not only about, after you get your video done, what I would suggest is have that video run by, at least 3, 4, 5 different people, because everyone is
Mhm.
going to come up with, okay, maybe you could have done this better, maybe that sounds better, why don't you use this word instead of that? Because all these small little tweakings will definitely kind of,
Yes, that
help
matters.
you.
Really matters.
So
Right.
the after you get your video, once you think it's done, always have it run by at least, I would say, 3 people.
Right. Right. We got a question, Chris, coming from Nanda Kamat. Let us see the question. She is telling that who takes care of the visa and the teaching license in Japanese schools? This is a very common question which we face.
Uh, the visa, it depends on which school you're going to be working with, which school you go to, and the school actually takes care of the visa. Now, as far as your teaching license is concerned, uh, when you talk about a teaching license, like for me, my actual teaching license is my TEFL certificate. That's your teaching
Okay.
license that you need to go to any country. And then maybe once you get into that country and you're teaching there, maybe that school might require you to get a different license if needed,
License. True.
depending
True.
on country to country. But
True.
otherwise, your teaching certificate, your TEFLs, CELTA, Delta, these are all basically your license to go ahead and teach in a different country.
Right. Chris, I would like to make a point is that although, okay, we got a question, let us address to this. Purvi Sharma, she is asking that, sir, while applying for jobs online, we always face the risk of getting scammed. So, how can one know if it is authentic or not? Also, sir, in most of the advertisements, if basic requirement remains to be a native speaker with disclaimer of due to visa requirements, can you please give a brief with regards of getting a work visa? So I think there are two questions, two part of the question.
Mhm.
One is getting the visa part. Second is authenticity, and the third is that uh, still is there a preference of native speakers given, and how we can overcome that?
Okay, to start off with, the first one is about how do you avoid getting scammed? Any website that's asking you to pay up in advance for something, don't do it.
It's a scam, right? Very true.
It is definitely a scam because your school, once you get in, your school is going to take care of all the visa requirements and everything. And if
Okay.
there is something that needs to be paid, the school will let you know. They will have, once they send in your COE, that's your certificate of eligibility, like I received from Japan. In that, there was a cover letter which also stated that, at the Japanese embassy, I would need to pay a fee, which is just a nominal fee. But otherwise, the whole visa cost was taken care of by the school. So if there's any website that's going to be asking you to pay something, that's basically they're trying to scam you. So don't
Right.
go there. So
Right.
that was question number one. Question number two, in regards to native speakers, yes, this is definitely a kind of a challenge that we face. But you also have a lot of countries which look at, people who are from Commonwealth countries. Sorry, a lot of websites are asking for candidates who are from Commonwealth countries. And India is one of the countries that is a Commonwealth country, so that's perfectly fine. Yes, and that takes me back again, right in initially in the beginning, when I said that you have to be persistent and patient. Persistent is because this is the kind of rejection that you're going to face, and that is where sometimes you'll come across certain websites where the moment you put in your nationality as an
Right.
Indian, it's going to directly give you a pop-up saying that because of visa purposes, sorry, we would not be able to go ahead and,
Hmm.
you know, take forward this kind of application. So those are the setbacks you are going to face. But once again, look at what your main goal is. Look at what your purpose is. What do you want from it? These
Right.
setbacks are going to happen. They are going to come in. But ultimately, in the end, what is it that you want? That is where you got to be persistent. Even if there's one thing that is kind of denying you,
Hmm.
go start looking up the internet. You are going to find a lot of opportunities over there.
Okay. So we got another quick question from Rashi. How do you find 400 plus schools to apply? Did you apply to ESL, ALT dispatch companies? I don't know. Maybe you can answer to this question.
So basically, the way I applied to all these schools was different websites. One is TEFL.com, I2I, and there was another website also. And I just went on kind of randomly, sending in my application to all these possible schools that I could find there on these websites. So there are websites which will kind of give you random number of schools. They have different countries of where you can go and apply. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead, shortlist which countries you want, look at what schools they have, read about the portfolio of the school. If you think it's worth it going there and applying, go ahead, apply for those. That is how you will get that number.
Okay.
Because TEFL, like I am still signed up on TEFL, and I still keep getting newsletters from them. So there are lots of opportunities that are kind of once again opening up.
Right.
So yeah.
Chris, you were
Mhm.
quite focused that would you go to Japan, or is it just that you hit the numbers and Japan cropped up?
So when I actually started, my whole journey, like the way I actually got this whole thing was very strange. It was just me sitting and watching America's Got Talent, and one of the
Okay.
contestants, her mother was a teacher in China. And
Okay.
all of a sudden, that kind of just sparked that whole thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, once upon a time, I wanted to be an English teacher in a foreign country. Let's
Okay.
see what I need to do to become an English teacher first and foremost. So went on the internet, started looking at it, came across that you need a teaching license. Step number two was, okay, which institute offers these kind of license? Got a few places, saw ACT over there. The next thing I knew is immediately the next day, I went to the ACT office in Andheri.
Okay.
Went there, did my groundwork, spoke to everyone, found out what I needed. And the first question that I asked them was, after I finish the course, how soon will I get a job?
Okay.
And the answer that I got was, it all depends on after you finish the course, how well you clear that interview and
Right.
how you portray yourself. That is how fast you will get the job.
Right.
because no one can give you like a time frame that, okay, you are going to get a job
Absolutely.
in 6 months after you finish the course.
Right.
No, that's not going to happen.
Right. Chris, one thing is that as you told the teaching
Mhm.
license, okay, we got another
Mhm.
question from Saraswati Pillai. Which is the right time to apply for the new academic year in Japan?
Once again, in Japan, the whole new academic year starts from April, but there
Okay.
are positions and openings that are there all year through. But if you're actually looking at the right time, April, October, because that's when you have like your summer and autumn seasons.
Okay.
So these are the
Okay.
two times, but otherwise you have, positions that are open all throughout the year.
Okay. Chris, what I was asking you that
Mhm.
we will take another question very soon, is that teaching license as itself, as you know much better than us, that in
Mhm.
India we do not, India not only ACT, none of the institutes really have any formal teaching license, as you rightly told. So when you apply for a job as and they want a teaching license, you're telling this 120 hours or 220 hours, whatever the in classroom that you did with us,
Mhm.
this serves as a teaching license, but actually the legal teaching license comes when you are landing up to that school, and that particular schools in that particular country is willing to get a teaching license, and they tell you the procedure how to apply. Is that so?
That could be so, because once again, for me over here, being in Japan, I didn't really like. For me over here, the main thing that they wanted was the TEFL certificate, either the TEFL, TESOL, or your CELTA Delta certificate.
That is the
So
entry.
that
I think that opens the gate in order to apply.
exactly, exactly,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, we will take one another question which has come up. We are coming almost to the end of the session. Is there a
Mhm.
scope of a business English teacher in Japan?
You would have to. That definitely is, but you would have to kind of do a lot of homework for that to see, where exactly you can only find an opportunity to be only a business English teacher.
Right. Okay,
But
fine.
definitely, yeah, there would definitely be an opportunity for that.
Right. We got another question which we will quickly take. Uh,
Hmm.
Kamui Alahora is asking, how does proficiency in Japanese factor in the selection process? How does proficiency in Japanese, I think language, actually factor in the
Yeah.
selection process? I think we already addressed this.
Already, yeah, yeah. You don't really need to be fluent in the Japanese language, provided the school wants it. If the
Right.
school wants it, then yes, then you would need to be maybe a little proficient in that language there. But once
Okay.
again, it's all up to the school.
Okay. Rashi have got a question. I have heard from many ESL teachers in Japan that the pay is horrible and they face a challenge to make the ends meet. How is true is that in your case? Well, you can give us an idea. Obviously, nobody is going to peep in your passbook to look into the finance.
See, once again, I think it all depends on. So, once again, let me run you through this whole thing. It all depends on what your lifestyle is, and where you are living. If you're going to be living in a city like Tokyo, I would say yes, the rent is kind of slightly higher over there. And the second thing is, a lot of people when they come here, they have this tendency of going out, eating out, so if you're going to be someone like that, and if your whole, you're going to be looking at, okay, I can go out, I can party, this is what I want to do, and I want a big huge house, and I want to live a glamorous life, then yes, you might find it a little difficult to make ends meet. But on the other hand, I think, it's pretty easy to kind of save a decent amount and also live a very good life over here.
Right.
So once again, the schools, if you're applying online to whichever school you're applying, they always let you know what's the amount that they're going to pay you. Based on
Right.
that, you definitely know how much you're going to get in hand. Maybe the first initial months might be a little difficult because you're coming here, you're just setting up shop, you're kind of looking out for an apartment. You've got to pay that down payment. You got to, your initial move-in cost might be a little high. It could be a little difficult to make. I wouldn't say difficult as such to make ends meet, but it could be a little challenging where you might have to kind of curb your expenses in the first few initial months.
Mhm.
But I think they pay pretty well over here.
That means the food and the basic necessity prices are not that high. You mean to say that it can be
No,
taken
the food.
care of.
See, once again, like I mentioned, it depends on the school and where exactly you are going to be teaching,
Right.
and
Okay.
then it also comes down to your lifestyle. Like
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people who have come here who've kind of you don't really know how to. There are some people, like, what I would suggest is, if you're coming here, if you've made up your mind you're coming to Japan, if you do not know how to cook, tell your mother to give you cooking lessons at home,
Yeah.
or
Learn
start
how to
cooking at
cook.
home. Yes, learn how to cook. Yeah, learn how to cook, just the basics. You don't have to be like a great chef. Learn how to
Right.
cook, because that will definitely bring down your cost a lot.
That means
Because
eating
if you
outside
actually,
or taking food outside is pretty expensive.
it would be expensive, because if you look at, minimum, if you go to have a decent lunch, it
Right.
would be anywhere between 500 to 600 yen,
Okay.
which would work up to about almost between 350 350 rupees, 350 to 400 rupees, Indian
Yes.
rupees. So
Right.
if you're eating out twice a day, let's say if you're catching about 1,000 yen, or maybe even 1,200 yen, you know approximately
That's
how
pretty
much you're going to be
expensive.
paying in a month.
Right. Right.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so that's the thing with one day.
Right. So my last question to you, Chris, would be,
Mhm.
how do you found the course of Asian College and the certificate helping you or pushing you through the final venture when you got in a job in Japan? How did the Asian College certificate really help you to push things through?
Like I said, I think this is your main license. This is your license to actually go and start teaching in a different
Mhm.
country.
Right.
It, and the way, I think, I was really lucky to have Kuhurina Basu as my teacher.
Yeah, I
And
think she is
you
listening.
know,
Maybe she is right there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I was really lucky to have her, and also Omega. Um, and it was the whole journey, the whole thing that we had over there, the days that I spent over there, out of all the trainings that I've done so far, you know that this was one of my best trainings that I remember till date.
Thank
And
you. Thank you very much.
you're very welcome. And so once again, this is something that's definitely going to help you. And once again, I'm going to quote Kuhu. Once you go ahead and you get that certificate, make that certificate work for you.
That's right. How do you find,
Yeah.
Chris, the current
Mhm.
situation and the future of the ESL market, taking into consideration the pandemic that which we are? I called you up a month back. You told there is a fourth wave going on in Japan. So all my wishes from ACT so that we are all safe and happy. How do you find that the recruitment currently in Japan, considering people traveling from other countries, is it open? Things are becoming worse, or is it better? Do we see a future?
As of now, Shaunak, the country has still closed its boundaries. We still don't have, the borders are still closed, and we don't really have any new teachers coming in. But
Okay.
I'm pretty sure as soon as the dust settles, and once we get over this challenge that we have, things are definitely going to shape up. And yeah, you're going to have once again people wanting to looking out for more teachers, and a lot more avenues opening up over here.
Okay.
But in the
So
meanwhile, I think yeah, sorry.
no, you carry on.
I think, but in the meanwhile, while you're at home right now, and for all of y'all who are listening in, go ahead, apply online, because that's going to give you at least a little bit of experience.
Right.
And from, my personal take would be, once you go ahead, once you finish, once you get your certificate from ACT, um, have either a part-time job, or even if you have like a full-time job going on, that would be excellent, because the whole process, once you start applying and till you actually get your visa and everything in hand, is going to take some time. So having something, to fall back on, even like if it is going to be like a part-time job, would actually be excellent.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Chris. I would just like to summarize before we end this show. So it was
Mhm.
Christopher Rodrigues joining us directly from Japan, and it was a great learning from him. A few important points before we close down this show. One is that you need to be persistent and you need to apply. Just as an example, he applied to more than 400 schools. So challenges would be there, rejections, preferring native speakers would be there, but it won't be a problem if you keep shining on your dreams. The second point, which is very common to all the people who have been asking me, is that a knowledge of Japanese is not at all required. If you have, that is fine, but even with that, you can survive very well, except that Chris cited that some of the government offices. Third point is that you can quite survive quite well because they really pay well. If you don't want to lead a glamorous life, which I'm sure most of us won't be wanting us. And third is that the cultural orientation, being humble, and what you say, how you say, your words really matter. And the visa, most importantly, is taken care by the school, so you don't have to really worry. So it was, there are all thanks coming up. Sanat Naimpala, can we contact you via email for some anything which is required? Nanda is already thank you, Chris. Kuhurina has been, she has been watching. So that's all. I think we learned a lot. Kuhurina is telling Chris, I take this opportunity to personally thank you for joining us today. You're a busy person. So a lot of
Cool, that's to
that's a
you.
nice gesture. That's a nice gesture. So thank you, Christopher, because I'm sure that people will be wanting you again to join, because this is just an initial learning. Vijayata is telling it was really helpful. So thank you joining with us. Rashi is telling that you got many of my doubts cleared. Kuhurina is, of course, watching. She has sent. Padma Priya is already thanking you. So yes, as I told you that it was really a good learning session, Saraswati Pillai. So Rasna is also thanking you, Alia. So all these thanks coming across. So Chris, my best wishes to you, because we all know what we are going through. And being in a distant country, obviously the near and dear ones always want you to be safe and happy. So thank you for joining with us. And this is Shaunak signing off from the Facebook Live. We were talking with Christopher Rodrigues directly from Japan, and my heartfelt thanks to Chris, because we really learned a lot. Thank you, Chris, for joining with us.
You're very welcome, Shaunak. I'm, happy to be over here. And maybe in case if someone does have any questions, I guess if they could go ahead and, send it across to you. If you want to, you can kind of always, ask me. You're in touch with me, so we could have it that way. But once again, it's going to be depends on as and when I have the time, I can definitely answer
You
those
have the time,
questions.
right? Right. Thank you. Saraswati is telling that she has gained a lot of confidence after hearing to you. It was good. My basic objective was to bring someone on board who would be hearing from the horse's mouth, and you're the right person. Thank you, Chris, for your time. I know it is getting late over there in Japan, as you told me. So it was good,
No,
and
that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
we won't delay. Okay, bye. This is Shaunak signing off
Bye,
from the
Shaunak.
Facebook Live, Asian College
See
of
you,
Teachers.
everyone.
Thank you,
Good
Chris.
luck.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.